Appreciate you guys coming on. This is awesome to see all you guys. I have a relationship with all of you, and I think that's special. Obviously, Coach Novak, great to see you.
Good to see you.
You know, and our first guest is Brandon Staley. Brandon, if you could just introduce yourself, you know, tell us what years you was at NIU and what you're doing now.
Yeah, Brandon Staley. I'm the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, Northern Illinois graduate assistant, 2006 to 2008. My wife, Amy, is a NIU Husky alum, played volleyball there. We met at NIU at the kind of the beginning of the Orden Center. First year at the Orden Center is where my wife and I met. She was doing an internship for Robert Collins. So that's how we met. So a true love story, a true like NIU Husky love story. But I was fortunate to get hired by Coach right out of college, and we're both from the same neck of the woods. And I was fortunate to know your quarterback, Josh Haldy, and a great Northeast Ohio guy. So I was lucky to have his acquaintance, and the fact that you guys won a lot of games together. So that gave me a little bit of an edge.
Coach Shafer.
Yeah, so I came in with Joe that first year and was there with Joe for 8 years. I knew Joe. Joe gave me my first shot at Indiana with Coach Mallory and as a GA. And then I went to Rhode Island with Pat and Mike Mallory. And then when Joe got the job, I jumped in with him, and I was coaching the DBs for the first 4, and then doing the same and calling some plays for 4. And my last year was 2003.
So what are you doing now?
So I'm running the defense at Middle Tennessee State and loving it. Missy and I are empty nesters and living in Sweet Tea, Tennessee, and just hiding under the radar, coaching ball. And it's just been great. This is my 6th season, and it's been really good. Been a
There's
great
Mike
situation.
Mallory. You got Mike
Good to see
Mallory.
you, Coach.
Mal man,
Mike,
Hey,
a Michigan man.
guys? How you guys doing?
you're late for the meeting, Mike.
I know it. I just found out about it.
This is
Thomas.
Yeah.
Shafer left out is over the past 6 years, he's ran 2,035 total cover 0 blitzes. We played him a few years back. I'm like, what are we supposed to do?
Exactly right. Hey, Shafe, you also left out, you know, when I was a player, Wolfgang, he had a birthday, Coach Novak, and I pulled $5 out of my pocket and gave it to him on his birthday.
Believe me, I was going to bring that up.
Coach Canada.
Matt Canada. I'm currently the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I started with Coach Novak in 1998. I came as the running back coach. My hiring was in the summer. It was fun. Kit Cartwright, who was a very well-known coach and coaching at Michigan, was probably the guy that Coach Novak and the staff wanted, but he had a little bit of doubts about the losing streak. So he called my current boss, Ken LaRose, to make sure he could get my job. So luckily, then I got hired as a running back coach and spent 6 years, 3 years as a running back coach, 2 years as a quarterback coach. And then in 2003, I was the coordinator. So I was there for 6 years and had an unbelievable time and a lot of fun with these guys on the screen. Starting with coaching you once you got there.
Coach Mallory, you up next.
Well, I missed the start of it, so I guess I got there in '96, and then I was there till '99, and awesome times. Love being with Coach. Love being with everybody there at Northern Illinois. It's an awesome time. Great memories. It was awesome.
I'll tell you a story about Coach Mallory. So I don't know what happened, but the strength coach was not in attendance one summer. And so Coach Mallory ran the summer program that particular day, and he was going to have us do the run test. And so we ran about 4 110s, and Coach Mallory said, you know, guys, hey, this is just a warm up. So we had to run the 110s. We had to do 10 push-ups in between, which was really supposed to be your rest period. And then we wound up running 20 total. So I said, I'll make sure the strength coach come in from now on. You remember that, Coach Miles?
Yeah, I kind of do. I'm going to blame that on Shafe. Shafe was the one who gave me the idea.
Coach Drews.
Yes, sir, Thomas. Thank you. Again, Pat Narduzzi, head football coach at Pitt, and I joined Coach Novak. Was fortunate to join him in 2000. I think after Coach Mao left to go to Illinois, I got lucky. But the whole thing happened back in '96 when Shafe and Mike left Floyd Keith at the University of Rhode Island. We were all together on the same staff. We coached the whole defense together. I had the D line, Mike had the linebackers, Scott had the secondary. They left my ass all by myself. I was pissed. I was like, what the hell? I got left all by myself. And I know Coach Novak felt bad for Coach Keith, that he didn't want to take his whole crew and all that stuff, but he had obviously a great staff as it was. But so when Mike left, I finally got that call to come back with Scott, obviously, and enjoyed Coach Novak and had some great times. It was awesome. Some of the 3 best years of my life. Coaching with Scott as a defense coordinator. I had the linebackers at the time, and again, just details. I just learned all my details from Coach Novak, and just all those little things is stuff that I still use today. So I thank Coach Novak for everything I've learned. I've told him that through the years.
Let me just say this. When I hired Scott and Mike, I wanted to hire Pat too. But like you said, that was Floyd Keith's whole defensive staff. And Floyd and I were good friends. We had coached together at IU, and I couldn't do that to Floyd. So I waited a couple of years, and then I got Pat to come with me. So glad I did.
Yeah.
Coach Narduzzi, I saw Larry Williams over the weekend. He came to our practice on Saturday, and I was telling him, I said, you guys caused a lot of fights when y'all talked about getting positive in scheduling.
Getting positive on the drive routes, baby.
Hey, Coach Canada, they talk about getting positive. I don't know if Coach Novak must have looked away or what.
No, I got a story on that. Coach Novak was at the MAC meetings or something like that. He wasn't there. We throw 4 vertical. I'm not sure what it was called at this moment. We throw the ball far and to the right. I'm coaching running backs. We got you and Michael, and that's it, right? Because obviously academically I didn't do a good enough job keeping everybody else around. So we had 2 great ones, but we were tough sledding. And the linebacker, I'm watching the ball, and I look up, and you get hit right in the back. I look at Dews, and I'm waiting on Dews to say, hey, we shouldn't hit him like that. And he's like, we're getting positive. We're just getting positive. And it kind of went away. Awesome. And we got called into the office to talk about it, but it all worked out. You're still walking around, and now you're the head coach. So
that happened a few times. That happened a few times when we got called to Joe's office.
Dallas drill, Shafe. We had the Dallas drill. The running backs would be falling over the trash cans.
Yeah, the Dallas.
Coach Pitt.
Yeah, I'm Sam Pittman. I'm the head football coach here at Arkansas. And I went, actually, Coach Canada was the one that I talked to first in 2003. So I was there 2003, 4, 5, and 6. And Matt had a lot to do with that. And then I of course, I got a chance to visit with Coach. But NIU at that time had went 8-4 the year before. And so I knew that we'd be going to a winning program, which I needed because, I was getting my butt kicked everywhere I'd been, and getting fired. And I'll say this about Coach. He was like we all feel about him, but he did the most wonderful job about putting that chip on your shoulder, and the team really, really rallied around that. And but I learned a lot from Coach. I'm very appreciative of him.
When I interviewed, Coach, you interviewed me to come back. I said, first of all, me. Then secondly, I said, okay, I'm going to be prepared. And I felt really good about the interview until I sat down with Coach Pittman. And to this day, Pitt, okay, I remember you said, hey, you just a young ass coach. What you going to do for our families? And, that stuck with me because it told me the importance of, everybody's important. Everybody's need to do their job to the best of their ability. And as I've gotten older, I'm about the age where you were when you was at NIU.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. Hey, you just a young guy. You know, how you gonna
You
help
young
these
guy.
guys, provide for their families. It comes full circle.
Yeah.
But I got a question for Coach Novak. Obviously, Coach, all these coaches on here are, alpha personalities. I can speak for that from personal experience. Was it, specific traits that you look for in coaches when you was hiring people?
Well, I hate to say this in front of these guys because they're going to get a big head, Thomas, but I'm going to say it because it's true. These guys are all very bright to start with. They were smart guys. They loved football. They loved coaching. They were all very personable. So they were going to be, and they were wonderful recruiters. Every one of these guys, including you, Thomas, brought some really good players into NFU and made us all good coaches. But, when you talk about being smart, being personable, and working hard and loving football, that's what you need in a football coach. And I went through 36 coaches in 12 years. And I made a couple of mistakes. I admit it. I made mistakes in a lot of things, but we hired some really good coaches too. And they may tell you different, but I'd like to think that when we hired them, I got the hell out of the way and let them do their thing. I'd like to think so. At least I feel that way. And they all knew more about their position than I did. Every one of them did. And I knew that. And that's why I hired them. And I'd like to think I let him coach. I let him recruit. The only thing that I didn't let him do, I had the last say in recruiting. And I explained to them why. I says, you know what? You guys bring a darn recruit in here, and then you take another job, and I'm sitting there looking at him for 4 or 5 years. And I said, I got to deal with him. I got to coach him, and you're gone. So I said, I'm going to keep. I'll listen to you. I'll evaluate with you. But I got the final say in recruiting, and I really felt strongly about that. I really did. But they all did a great job of coaching, recruiting, and the players loved playing for every one of you guys.
What was the process to get a GA hired?
Well, one thing, when I first started, Tom, I'll make this as fast as I can. When I first started, I always went to a pool of guys I knew. When I first started NIU, I had the Shafers and the Narduzzis and the Mallorys and the Canadas and all those guys I had known from Indiana. And I had that pool, and that really got me started. Then that pool started to dry up. I ran out of young guys that I knew, so I'd go to friends. I had 3 or 4 good buddies in coaching that knew me, and I trusted their opinion and got a lot of good recommendations from them. Actually, on Brandon, as I remember it, he mentioned Josh Holdy came to me. And I'm from Mentor, Ohio, and Brandon is from Perry, Ohio, which is right next to Mentor, and Josh is from Madison, which is right next to Perry. So he came to me and he said, Coach, I got a guy I know that was looking for a GA's job. He was quarterback at Dayton, da-da-da-da. So I didn't know Brandon. I said, have him come up and we'll visit. And I was extremely impressed. Obviously, very bright guy, really outstanding personality. And I really liked him. And the only problem I had is he was a quarterback, and I didn't have an offensive GA open. So somehow I think I convinced him to go on the defensive side to broaden his background a little bit. And boy, he took it from there. Went on, was a great defensive coordinator in college, went into the pros, and look where he is now. But it was obvious to me he had a great future. I can't tell you I know he's going to be a head coach in the NFL, but I knew he was going to do very, very well because, like I said, he was bright, very personable, hardworking, and I knew he was going to be good.
Coach Staley, why did you take the job?
Well, I was really hoping, just like I think anybody coming out of college to, I think, go someplace that really fit like my upbringing, son of a teacher and a coach. And I actually knew about NIU through Josh. Josh from our, NIU's a long ways away from like where we're from in Ohio. You got to drive a long ways. And I remember all the success that they had when he went there. And I remember when Josh would come home in the summertime, we would throw together at our high school. And so when I was playing at Dayton and he was playing at NIU, we would kind of link up and get some guys together and throw. We had a couple buddies like play at Youngstown State. And so we would link up. My twin brother was playing Division II in Pennsylvania. So we would just all get up there and throw. And I remember hearing him talk about the culture. Hey, we got a bunch of NFL players. No one really knows about it, but I think we're going to be really good. And so I kind of saw the build, I think, of NIU. I know that you obviously were there. I didn't know who Thomas Hammock was at that point, but you know, he had told me about the culture of the program and, you know, just what Coach Novak was building there. And I think when I was playing, you know, you're seeing all this happen. You know, you guys are beating Alabama, you're beating Maryland. Hey, you're going to the MAC championship game, and all these things are happening. And so that was just really attractive to me. I was like, hey, if I want to get into coaching, I would love to do it at a place that's going to teach me how to be a coach, and it's, you know, going to represent the type of culture that I believe in. You know, Dayton, we were really good, and so I was just looking someplace to go learn and grow. And you know, Josh had just told me so many good things about Coach Novak and being from Cleveland, and I just thought it could be a really special fit. And you know, I remember when I met Coach for the first time, it was one of those things where you knew that this thing was for real and that you were going to learn a lot. It was going to really push you. And I think just me going to defense, you know, that was a great opportunity for me. And I loved it. I love that aspect of it. I remember Coach telling me that's exactly how it was with Scott Shafer, who I know Scott's also from Northeast Ohio. So, you know, Coach just really brought that angle out, and I just jumped at it. And, you know, as you know, Thomas, we were there together. Just, you know, I was just trying to do the best I can to fit in and to be a good coach and do whatever Coach told me to do.
You know, I think, you know, one thing that's unique that I think that, you know, people should know about you is, you know, the connections you made at NIU. You know, I know Chris Beatty is on your staff,
Yep.
coaching receivers who you met at NIU. And then last year you brought in Jason Onibuwaga, who was a player,
Yep.
for an internship. And I think, you know, that's something that's important, those connections in relationships. But at the time when you was a GA, did you envision yourself doing what you're doing now?
It was the only goal that I had. You know, I told Coach Novak, I remember on my interview, all I've ever wanted to do is be a coach. You know, my dad, you know, I started drinking coffee in the first grade, reading the sports page, the News Herald back home, trying to be like my dad. And that's all I've ever wanted to do. Now, initially, when I grew up, I thought it could be basketball. But then, you know, as I became a better player in football, that path kind of transitioned. But all I ever wanted to do was coach. I love being around competition. I love being able to teach and lead, being a part of a team. And so I knew that was going to be the path that I was on. And I think what's so incredible about being a coach in the NFL, and we're like in draft meetings right now, but I keep telling them about like Coach Novak and his coaching tree. You know,
Yes.
I think about, you know, you, Thomas, you know, being you know, in the NFL, you know, with Baltimore and just all the places you've been. I think about Chris, you know, Chris Beatty. I think about Sam Pittman. I think about, you know, whether it's Narduzzi, Shafer, I mean, Mallory's, I mean, you name it, Coach has been around it. You know, our
you could throw in Alex Golish in there. Y'all was in there together.
Alex Golish is now a head coach of the
Yes.
South Florida Bulls. And then our director of college scouting, Kevin Kelly, played for Coach Novak at IU. And so, you know, we've got connections all over the place. And that's why I'm very proud to be a part of Coach Novak's coaching tree, because I know, you know, and he mentioned Matt Canada, who's an offensive coordinator in the NFL. There's just everybody that's ever touched Coach Novak's program has become a better coach for it. I know that I'm proud to be a part of NIU, and, you know, the fact that my wife is from there too has just been super special. And, you know, I will always remember that time. And I learned a lot. I learned about what, you know, and being a head coach, I learned about what a program should look like. And that's something I always respected. And, you know, Thomas, seeing what you're doing there at NIU, it's been amazing.
What was it like coaching for Coach Novak? And do you have a funny story from your time here? Coach Shafer?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I got tons of them. I tell them all the time too. Well, I remember one time, I don't know if I was the DB, I don't know what year it was. We had a scrimmage out on the old grass practice fields, right? When they put those bushes up for Joe and they were like a foot tall. You remember those damn bushes, Joe?
Yeah, I sure do.
Yeah, we were told we were going to get these big bushes. We were all excited. Anyway, we're having a scrimmage out there. It's a hot day. Coach has the officials there. And we get a pass interference call. It's about 25 yards away from me. Now, my hat is drenched. It's just drenched with sweat. Bad call. Bad call. I think they were high school officials or something, Joe. I don't know where the hell you got those officials that day. But I took my hat off and I threw it and I went from the side, like skipping a rock, and the wind in DeKalb, Illinois is extremely impressive wind, as you guys know. And that wind caught the back of that hat, and it was just going streamline, and it hit the official in the neck. And Joe, I don't know if you remember this, but you saw me do it. And you gave me that look like, come here, you little son of a, you know. And I took it like a man, and I don't think I threw my hat too many more times after that. But that's just one of many. That, and when Pat broke his hand, or Pat and Joe were talking about cover 2, and I think Joe might have hurt his finger on that day, whether it was a 2-drop or a 2 or 3 match.
I knew that was coming up.
Do you remember that one, Joe?
I knew that was coming up.
I kept trying to get.
Still crooked.
I kept trying to get
going over the hole.
Well, yeah, the whole
Let me finish the story.
that was another story.
We got
But I
done
kept-
playing Auburn. We got done playing Auburn. We
Yeah,
got another story. I got another story. We got done playing Auburn, and they had that big tailback. Was that Rudy?
yeah,
Rudy
yeah,
Johnson.
yeah. Rudy
Great
Johnson.
tailback in. We got stopped the run. We're playing a lot of quarters, so we get enough guys in the box. And you know, we can't. You know, we're stopping the run, but now we're having troubles. Shave Stevies are. You know, there's guys catching digs behind up. There's guys running crossing routes. Thomas, we're getting positive on them. Coach is like, hey, we got to get dropped. So then we start playing cover 2. So our backers are now dropping for depth, and now they're catching it underneath, and we can't tackle. It's like, well, which one? And I'll go back, and that board got smashed that Sunday. Like, you know, wanted to play cover 2 the whole time. It was hilarious. It was a good time, but he was right in everything he said. But it's like, you know, we can't play both of them at the same time. Unless we knew exactly.
You didn't tell me I was right at the time.
I understood what you're talking about. It was like, what are we doing here? That was
Coach
funny.
Canada.
Oh, I mean, obviously, maybe, you know, there's a couple real funny guys on there. Let them be funny. For me, coaching, you know, I think a couple guys have said it, but it was just, I got to be a GA at Indiana, and that's when I met Coach Novak. But I learned how to coach at Northern. I mean, I learned how to coach from Coach Novak and the staff. And what he just said was true. He allowed us to coach. And I mean, I remember I got hired, and I'd been a quarterback guy, and I got the running back job, and I was put in charge of kickoff return, sitting there looking at Mal. I'm in charge of kickoff return. I got no more idea than man on the moon how to do kickoff return. Like, I'm out there. My first day in the drill was so bad, but coach let me learn. And then, you know, we ended up being okay, kickoff return over time. And he allowed us to learn, and he allowed us to coach. And I learned everything, you know, Sam said it. No, I learned everything I've learned from coaching on that staff with these guys and coach. I mean, we learned how to stick to it. I went when we were 0 and whatever. And, you know, I was thinking about stories. I built a house. I got there and just built a house. I had that much faith in what was going to happen. Obviously, 20 years later, I don't know if I would do that again, but it all worked out. But we stuck, you know, that's what you learn from coach. We did it right. He made us do it right, but he allowed us to do it our own way. And it was just you know, you look around at these guys here, and there's a whole bunch of other coaches that aren't on here. We had a great staff, and we had a lot of fun. But like I said, I won't try to tell a funny story. I got Shafe and Sam on here, and those are the two funny coaches I've ever worked with. So I'll let them be funny, and the funny stories I might tell I can't say on air. So I'll hold them.
Hey, you know, the other day somebody asked me, you know, how did I get the name Hambone? And I explained to him, I said I was on Coach Canada's kickoff return team, and I was a fullback, and we had right 23.
Right 23,
Right
baby.
23.
I don't know why we called it right 23, because obviously everybody knows our numbers go to the left, but we had right 23, and my job was
that shows we didn't, even though I think we were almost second in the country, that shows you didn't listen, man. We double teamed 2, we kicked out 3.
Yeah, I was the kick out guy, and so
right.
I kicked out a guy in Buffalo. We took it to the house, and they said that was the bone hit. So then I became Hambone.
That's right. There you go. And it's stuck.
So, Coach Mal.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you know, as far as funny, I'm kind of like with Matt. I mean, gosh, when you have Shafe that's doing his deal, everything around that is funny, or you laugh about it later. But I tell you what, the thing that I really appreciate is just, you know, the persistence that we had, the positivity, the work ethic. And I mean, this morning I was for whatever reason, I thought about our victory against Central Michigan to break our that streak, and that's still one of my five. I mean, there's a couple of games I think of in my whole career, and that's including a Super Bowl. Is that victory at Central Michigan? When we beat Central Michigan at our place, and it's just so gratifying, and just one of those things that I'll always remember. And again, just it goes back to all that we put into the program. And it right there was just like these guys had played so hard for us. We worked so hard, and right then you could really feel the change. And that's always been a great memory for me.
I took an unofficial visit to Central Michigan, and when y'all won that game, I was convinced NIU was the place I wanted to go. Just the rain delay, the stoppage. At that time y'all had sub sandwiches in the locker room. I didn't know that wasn't an every game deal, but obviously it was a big celebration. So, Coach Narduzzi.
That was a true North Atlantic game. Central Michigan.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
The only good story I had was the one Shafe brought up. I mean, we had great times there, but the Auburn story and the cover 2, cover 4. I think Shafe had another story. I'm going to pass it off to him. I think he probably got another dozen.
Oh God. Well, I mean, I do. And I tell them all the time. But I got to tell you, same thing that you guys are saying. You guys think you guys learned things from Joe. I learned things from you guys. I learned things from Mike and Pat and Joe. I was an offensive guy, thought I was going to be an offensive guy. And I went to Rhode Island and Floyd put me on defense. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing, man. I talked to as many people as I could to try to figure it out. Talked to Joe, talked to Bobby Morris back then. And then when Joe, you had those great clinics over at Indiana. We used to go to those
4-3 clinics. Yeah,
those 4-3 clinics. And we just, the three of us, we sat there and we just learned from all of you guys. I mean, Terry Hepner, the Stoops brothers, who else was on? Craig Bray was out there with Doba's staff. And I mean, we had so many good coaches. And the biggest thing that I think we all took from it is we really don't know anything. And, we're all getting a little bit older, and I still go through games and whatnot. And I think back to what would Joe do? And we go back to our base. We go back to what we know and let the kids play and get them to the point where they can just see it, believe it, and play fast. And, everything Joe did with that program from the beginning to my last year has stayed with me my whole career. And I know, especially, the guys on here with Mike and Matt and Pat, we talk about it every time we get together. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? Pull your socks up, no golf socks, discipline. That's why when Joe put those black socks on and we kicked Miami's ass, that was a hell of a day. I don't know if you remember that. First time I saw you dance, Joe, we kicked your alma mater's ass. And Big Ben and the boys. That was what everybody talks about Alabama.
Yeah.
But that one and that damn Bowling Green Thundersticks game.
Yep.
When we truly turned that corner,
Right.
and the kids and us as coaches started believing that we could play with anybody. And you instilled that in all of us. And to this day, last year we played a game the week that you guys, all you guys were talking about the Alabama win. We played Miami, and doggone, I played William. Mike's son William was on Miami's team, and I shared a couple texts with our defensive kids here from our former players. I had Lionel Hickenbottom on there, Nick Duffy, handful of our kids, and they're like, "Hey, can't believe it's gone by this quick and stuff." And I shared that with our players, and we got to the point because of Joe and all you guys that we believe we could win games we weren't supposed to, and everything's overrated. And when we won a few of those games over the years, and then down the road when we all left each other, we've all been in those situations where I know we called upon those years together and that faith that we could do things that people said you can't do. And it all started with you, Joe. And dog, man, we just appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Great
Absolutely.
Years. Great
Coach
years.
Pitt?
Dave was supposed to be the funny guy.
I don't know where that came from, Sam. You were always the one that I looked to.
Wait just a second. You know, my memory, when Coach brought he brought the biggest chain I'd ever seen in my life into the locker room when he's getting ready to lock the gates. And he had those police officers, and hell, they couldn't even hold the damn chain up. He put it out on the floor. It was just too heavy. And so 2 years ago, I called Coach, and I was going to have my own little lock the gate deal, but I called him to ask him if he'd be okay if I used it. And he said, heck, he took it from Coach Mallory, as you know, it's all that. And so I'm feeling pretty good about it. And I'm going, well, we're going to do it. You know, we're going to play Texas here. We're going to do it. And the last thing he said was, hey, Sam, it's undefeated. I go, oh, hey. So we were going to do it, you know. And then he said, by the way, it's undefeated. And I said, well, so we went ahead and did it. And fortunately, we were able to win. But I'll never forget, I was in the locker room and I said, man, this is the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And of course, it wasn't just me. That everybody in the locker room thought it was unbelievable. And sure enough, we went out and won the game. I think we were maybe my third. I think we had lost to Maryland by about 3, and I think we'd lost to Iowa State by 3. And we needed that game as a conference game and all that. And Coach locked the gates on them. We beat them pretty bad, but I remember that. And then I remember the Alabama Fight song played 17,000 times the week that we played them.
At
and
least
the kids were out there dancing. Hell, that was like the #1 hit when we got out to the game.
Yeah.
And I remember taking a picture. I think it was Matt after the game. I still have it, but yeah, great memories, and very, very honored that I had a chance to be a part of it.
You know, so many of those things we did too, and I know you guys know this, but I'm not sure the people that are going to watch us know. They came from somebody else for me. I played for Bo Schembechler, coached for Bo. A lot of the those who stay will be champions. That was Bo. So much of what we did was Bill Mallory. I mean, I was with Bill 16 years. I mean, what a great influence he was. And so many of the things were, well, Bill did them and they were good. So that's what we're going to do. So, you know, you guys are doing some of them, but we stole them from somebody, or now stole isn't the right word, but appreciated what they did. And that's why we did it. So that's what coaching is. You pass things along that are good. You try to take the things that aren't good and ditch those, but you pass ideas along. And that's what coaching's all about.
Coach Novak, tell us about the transition. We spent a lot of time in that old facility, and then they transitioned to the Jordan. And I know you wanted to make sure you got into the Jordan Center. Tell us about that transition.
Thomas, my last 4 or 5 years at NIU, I spent more time raising money than I did coaching football, because it really got to the point with me. It was just something I know Northern needed. Those facilities were worse than most of the local high schools. And when I first got there, we started the crusade, and it took 12 years. I was in the Jordan Center for 3 months, Thomas. We moved in there in 2007 in August, and I retired in November. So, but I saw it done. And then when I saw the indoor getting done, I just had a great feeling. I knew the potential at Northern had a chance to be really reached. And I wish I'd had a chance to use those facilities to recruit to be honest with you. But we did all right without them. We kind of took that as our crutch and worked it pretty good, as you know. But it was something that I felt was very important. And I had 2 athletic directors, and Kerry and Jim Phillips, that were very helpful and positive in getting this thing done. And I'm so proud of what's there now. I think it's wonderful. It's necessary. Just like with the weather in DeKalb, like you got snow now, at least you got a place to practice. We had to go out in the snow, and I don't know how much we got done, but listening to Brandon talk, you talked about all these guys that coached. And I don't know how much I helped any of them, but I guess I didn't screw too many of them up, because they're all doing pretty well.
No, that's awesome. Well, Coach Novak, just so you know, you've obviously had a profound effect on me as a player, as a young man, as a growing man, as a young coach, and all those things in between. And one memory that stuck with me, and I don't think I ever told you this, was in 2005, and Pitt knows this. We lost to Akron. We go to the MAC championship game, and we lose in a heartbreaker in the final seconds.
Yep.
And me as a young coach, just seeing your face and your reaction to all the hard work you put into the program, that stuck with me. And so when we had the opportunity to play for a championship in 2021, the only thing I wanted to do, Coach, was get you a ring. And because as a young coach, you don't know how many opportunities you're going to have to win championships. And I knew that was a great chance for you to win the championship. We didn't get it done. But I wanted to let you know as a small token for everything you've done for me to get you that ring in 2021 meant a big deal to me. And I never told you the why, but that was the why behind the reason.
Two things. It sits on my table in my family room, so I really do appreciate it. It's too big to wear. My fingers aren't strong enough, but it sits on the table. And honestly, that loss that day might have been the worst ever. We had some great highs, Alabama, Maryland's, and Bowling Greens. We had some great wins. That loss probably was about one of the worst ever. That and a couple Toledo games, and those are hard to shake. But that's coaching. You win some, you lose some, and it's like riding a wave. And you hope you got more waves up than you do down.
Question for the group. Just tell me, what did you learn or take from your experience from NIU that you kept, throughout your career that helped you, that maybe got you through some situations? We got, 3 head coaches, former head coaches, and I'd be curious to hear, your experience and, what you took when you left. Coach Shafer?
And just so many things. I think the biggest thing is staying together when times get rough. We're all going to sit here and talk about the games coach just mentioned, and we did, the victories. You whisper your weaknesses, right? But when there was not a lot of faith around the community and the administration, there were a dozen or so people in that office looking at Joe that did believe, because he stayed positive. Even when we weren't winning, he said, we see progress. Is there progress made? We lost, but we see progress. And that lesson to me as a young coach was the best, because, we were all young guns trying to figure out our way, and we didn't have a ton of talent. Most of our talent were kids that we just recruited. And I think we had to end up, we had like 21 guys leave that first year, if I remember correctly. And so we were playing puppies, but Joe stayed true with what the mission was. And that was to play with unbelievable attitude and effort and play tough, hard-nosed football, and good things will come one day. And we were so damn close, as you guys remember, Mal. We were so damn close in so many games throughout those tough times. And I remember after you left, Mike, we played Ohio U. We hadn't seen the triple since that time we were coaching together. We turned on the tape to try to see what we were doing, because I remember schematically we were pretty decent. We just didn't tackle real well in space. We were leg whipping each other, and that's recruiting, But the thing that I noticed was how hard we played when we went through that streak. And going back a couple years later and looking at that tape, I was just impressed with how hard our kids played, even though we hadn't won any games. And the physicality and the toughness and the try hard was there. We just had to try to get some, a handful of better players to make some plays that those kids had a hard time. And that's probably the biggest thing that stuck with me is keeping the faith and keeping that direction and staying on the mission from above. And that was Joe. And that was the biggest thing for me, during the tough years at the different places I've been over the years. You tried to stay with that same theme and also treat the kids with respect and give them a little more credit than maybe you thought they deserved when you were a young guy. And the one thing we did, and Joe knows it, it goes back to Joe and Bill Mallory, is we tried our tails off to recruit character, kids that liked football or loved football and that would put the work in. And if all things were equal, take that kid. And that's what I learned from Joe. To this day, I carry that with us as I'm getting ready to go back on the road recruiting now, is try to find kids that love to play the game.
Coach Mallory?
Yeah, I'm just going to keep repeating, what we just heard with Shafe. It's just really people make the place in the sense that you surround yourself with quality character people and people that love the game. And, that's something that I grew up around with my dad, and certainly Joe, that's what we live by. And, you just assume when you're around that's how it is everywhere, and it's not. And it's so important that you surround yourself with character people that work hard, people have a passion for the game, and that's coaches and that's players. And you're demanding, but you're fair. And, you ask a lot and you expect a lot. And, but the kids respond, and they did, like Shafe said, the guys played hard. And I remember when I was at Illinois and we played Northern, and we squeaked a win at Illinois, but gosh, I was so proud just to watch guys that I'd seen and coached a couple of years earlier and how hard they played, and they left it all on the field. And that's something I always have appreciated, is just the effort and the love for the game that the guys played for us at Northern.
Coach Canada?
Yeah, same thing. I think we've all been through, we were all friends and talk. We've all had good years and bad years. And I think staying the course, not flinching. I think one thing Coach did, and Shafe said, a couple of guys said it, we did believe we could win. I think when you look back now and in the world we live in with the media and that, like, as coaches, we knew we were going to turn it. And that's from Coach Novak. We knew we were going to turn it, and the players believed, and I think they believed, because it wasn't fake. It wasn't us being, trying to sell them something that wasn't real. We were all young enough, and we were like, we're going to win. We're going to get this thing turned. And the cool thing is it happened. We got it turned, and it worked out. And I think staying the course and then keeping it simple. I remember when I was lucky enough, the coach promoted me to coordinator. It's the only thing he said to me. He said, you offensive guys think you're so smart. He said, it's okay to call the play more than once. And there's not anybody, including you, who I've ever worked with on an offensive staff who wouldn't say that I do that. If it works, I call it again. And that's obviously some people get, but I call it until, to the point I remember that in 03, the month that coach said that's enough, because I just kept calling it until they were going to stop it. So I think that, as simple as that sounds, it was right. Keep it, make sure our players can play fast and loose. And then just that unbelievable belief, Sam referenced Alabama and said, I know we're going to talk about that. But that week, we convinced our players they could win. And however good they were, they went down there planning to win. So I give all that to Coach. And I've certainly had some great moments. I've had waves on both sides in this career. And on the waves that are down, you just got to, it's going to turn. And I credit him for that.
One quick story on Alabama, and you might have all heard it before. I'm sure the coaches have, but after the game, we're in the locker room and the president's standing next to me, and our kids sing the fight song like they always did. They jumped around for a minute or two, and they went to the shower. The president looks at me and he says, Joe, I don't know if they understood what they just did. He said, I was the president of Tennessee for many years. We came down here. We never won. I looked over and I says, Prez, I said, you and I know what we just did, because my contract was up. And I knew it was time to talk about that. But the kids did. They went down there. They expected to beat Alabama. And darn it, we did. So.
Awesome. Coach Narduzzi.
Oh, gosh, those guys said it all. There's so many things, throughout all the years, the belief and everything. I think it was, the people and the consistency. And all the details. I'll talk details. Just Coach Novak was a football coach. Coach Novak coached the details every day. And, he'd pull you aside as an old linebacker coach and say, hey, did you think about this? Did you do this? Or, hey, how about this drill? How about we do this? So all the, the fundamentals that you thought maybe you knew as a young coach, he taught you that. I think the consistency in his program the whole time. And, I think the reason our kids played hard for us and played hard for Coach Novak was because, they were loved. And it was consistent. They knew what they were going to get every day. There wasn't this, Joe is high one day, low one day. Coach Novak was the same every day. And I think that was consistent. And then the people in the office. He hired an unbelievable staff. Talked about those 36 guys, and 36 guys, you're going to make a couple mistakes, but he made more slam dunk hires. As I was leaving, Coach Pittman was coming in. It was like, maybe a month and a half, 2 months. We didn't get to coach a season together, but like the guys he continued to bring in, the people in that office, and we had fun. I mean, the thing is, I mean, you know, I ask recruits all the time, and I ask their parents, say, like, you know, you better go somewhere where you're going to have fun. And I've been lucky to have, you know, great jobs wherever I've been. I've enjoyed every job I've had. And I can't tell you, I've enjoyed a job more than Coach Novak because of the people in the office every day, the people we hired, the relationships we built and continue to have today. I mean, I look at this email I got, and I'm like, where the hell is Mike Mallory on? It's like, we got to get Mike on here. It's just like, the people are incredible, and we never get to say it. We never get to spend as much time as we'd like together, but it's all about the people. I mean, the parties at your house after those wins, Coach Novak, and your wife, Carol, and just all the love. I mean, there was love in that office. There was love in that program. And that's why we won. We can talk about a lot, you know, about a lot of other stuff, but it was the love and the consistency that you put into that program.
You know, we had to get along in that facility up there in the stadium. Hell, to go from my office to the defensive staff room, I had to walk through the offensive meeting room. If a player came in and wanted to see their defensive coach, they had to walk through the offensive staff meeting room. So, hell, if we didn't like each other, we'd have been in sad shape because it was so tight up there, and we took advantage of it. We did all right.
I can tell you one thing we did learn. We learned where that depth chart board was at, Coach. It was behind that curtain. So, you know, we would go up there and you peek behind that curtain and try to find out where you was at on the depth chart. Coach Pittman?
You know, I keep it short with just hard work, because that's what we did. Teaching the kids how to be tough, physicality of the program. And then you're still carrying it now, Thomas, the hard way, the chip on your shoulder, let's go earn everything we're going to get and then be damn proud when we get it. And hopefully our program, at times it does and at times it doesn't, but hopefully our program here at Arkansas reflects that. And I took all those things from Coach.
Well, a Coach Novak memory is I used to drive Coach Novak to his press conferences. So I always was that GA that wasn't trying to be quiet the whole way. I was trying to ask a lot of questions. I'm sure he didn't really appreciate it. It was probably a private space for him, but I was firing away. And again, I was trying to fire away questions that probably would help me in the role that I'm in now, you know, and so I kind of cherish those times driving him to his press conference across campus. You know, we made a lot of, you know, we had a lot of big wins when I was there. There was a lot of success. I think, you know, we made that bowl game our first year, the Poinsettia Bowl, and, you know, to go to a bowl game my first year as a coach, again, just I saw what a program, you know, should look like. And I know that, you know, Coach had done so many things before that season, you know, so many memorable things. But I think to go to a bowl game in our first year and to take on Ohio State, my first game as a college coach was at Ohio State. There was just a lot of things that I experienced that year that will stay with me. And I thought how steady Coach was. That was a tough season for us. And we really had to rally to make a bowl game. But I think what I saw was command. I saw what it looked like to lead a team. And I know that when Coach Novak entered a room, and I've been fortunate to be around, you know, like John Fox has taken 2 teams to the Super Bowl. You know, Sean McVay is one of my best friends. I've met, Nick Saban. You're exposed to a lot of great coaches, right? But, when Coach Novak walked into a room, he had full command of that room. And it was the level of respect, the standards that everybody believed in. And I think that anyone that ever coached or played for Coach Novak knows what I'm talking about. And that's what'll stick with me because I learned as a young coach, again, like I said, what it should look like. And the character that he had and the reputation that he earned, that has always stayed with me. And again, I'm very proud to say that I was part of his staff.
Do you have a funny Coach Novak story? I got one I can give you.
Be careful. Be careful.
I got a good one. So, my first year of recruiting, and I remember this to this day. I signed. We were signing Ricky Crider from Evansville, Indiana.
Yeah.
And Jason Onibawago, right? Those were my 2 recruits. Yes. And during that time there wasn't GPS systems, so you had to MapQuest or Streets and Maps to get from one house to the next. So we're in Evansville, and Coach Novak is like, yeah, I know this area. I worked at Indiana. And so we stop at a gas station and get a map, an actual map. And I'm thinking to myself, Coach, I got these directions I done planned out 2 weeks in advance, right? That gets me from Ricky Kreider's house to Jason Onigboagu's house. But if you don't follow the directions exactly the way, I can't guarantee we're going to get to that house. It's like, no, I'm telling you, you're going the wrong way. I know a faster way. And so we wound up taking the back roads through Bloomington, right, up to Indianapolis. But you get to Indianapolis, I have no idea how to get to Jason Onigboagu's house from where that point.
Yeah.
And, coach is sitting to my right, when he put that leg over inside the car,
yeah.
He's a little bit frustrated. He put that hand on that forehead. I said, Coach, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to call J.O.'s family and they're gonna have to. So they wind up driving to come get us, and I followed them to the house. But I guess Coach didn't understand. We have a plan mapped out, and then he took me off my plan, but I had to adjust rather quickly. You got to adapt or die.
That's right.
I didn't know how to use GPS, for crying out loud. It's funny how you guys remember stories that I don't remember.
No, I mean, I'm sure every coach has a story. You got a funny one, Coach Staley?
Yeah, I just remember being in a recruiting meeting and there being this local guy from Barrington who wouldn't come visit. I'm not going to name names, but he was from Barrington, local guy. And, this is Coach Novak. I mean, he's been there a long time. He's built this thing and it's going in the right direction. And I remember, one of our assistant coaches couldn't get this kid from Barrington to come visit. And, I'm a little bit new to the Chicagoland area. I mean, I know where things are, but hey, man, Barrington's really pretty close to DeKalb. And we couldn't get this kid to come visit. And I just remember Coach Novak saying, well, I'm not going to use the exact language, on this call, but hey, if he's not going to come, if he thinks he's too good for Northern Illinois, then I can't wait to play against him somewhere, and then that guy ended up going to a different team in the MAC. And I don't think we were disappointed to play against him. But I thought that, that level of conviction and that level of, just, I think, pride in the way that we do things. And hey, we've got a special thing here, and it's not for everybody, and I love that. I loved how Coach really, had the belief system, and he would tell these stories about guys like Thomas Hammock, who were these lightly recruited guys. And that's how, he built Northern Illinois. There would be all these examples all over the place, Doug Free, and our offensive coordinator for the Cowboys, Kellen Moore. Kellen played with Doug at the back end of his career, and so there's all these crazy connections to Coach Novak. And I'll just remember, hey, I was only with him for a year and a half, but Coach and I have always stayed in touch ever since I left that place. And it's been awesome to be on a call like this where we can tell even more stories.
Coach, you did have a unique way of recruiting. Can you kind of talk to us about how you recruited to NIU?
Well, I'll be honest, Thomas. I wanted to recruit guys that I liked. If I didn't like somebody, I said, I'm going to be around this guy for 4 or 5 years. And I said, I don't want to do that. So I tried to recruit guys. Obviously, they got to be good players. That was important. But I wanted character. I wanted guys I wanted to be around and guys that fit in. I didn't want lazy guys. So I was looking for guys and really had a special feeling for guys that were hungry, that maybe were lightly recruited. You look, a lot of our great players, we had a lot of walk-ons, Larry Williams and Randy Drews and Travis Moores, and those guys were all walk-ons. Jake Verstrady, they came as walk-ons and were great players for us. And a lot of the other guys, Garrett Wolf was hardly recruited by anybody. Doug Free Wisconsin wanted him to walk on. And, we made some good evaluations. Guys came in and worked their butts off and turned out to have great NIU careers. And they always had a chip on their shoulder. You know that, Thomas. You guys all had a chip on your shoulder. You had something to prove. And I'll say this, guys left us to go to other places. And I told them, I says, that's part of coaching. You go up to the Big Ten as you did or other guys. And I understood that. But I said, you know what? You're never going to have more fun coaching than you had coaching these guys, because they did what we asked. They worked their tail off. They played hard every game. And I said, you aren't going to have any more fun. You might have more talent, but you aren't going to have any more fun coaching a group of guys in your this group.
Thomas, one thing I want to say about Coach, something I remember too, and I think this is important and it's relevant because I think the way that Coach had built NIU was traditional, running team, big guys, more drop back quarterbacks, I would say, just traditional, more classic style, which was different in the MAC. Everyone was trying to get spread out, and you guys were really physical, obviously you starting with yourself, and then Michael Turner, G Wolf. I mean, a lot of big time runners, we ended up having Chad Spann and that group of guys, Thomas, that you kind of recruited to us. But I remember being with Coach in that time, and, he was like, we need to get more athletic at quarterback. Because, Coach being a defensive coach, he's like, listen, these guys are really tough to defend, these guys that can run it, and, the read element, the mobility. And I remember Coach having like a vision of like, hey, we have to go this direction. And I remember being there for that whole quarterback evaluation. This is a great story. Kirk Cousins came and visited us, from Holland Christian in Michigan. I remember Kirk coming to NIU to come throw. And, but, Coach got DeMarcus Grady and Chandler Harnish signed, in the same class. And you talk about what those two guys did to the trajectory of NIU in terms of the mobile quarterback aspect, the career that both those guys had together, and that leading kind of to Jordan Lynch, and like, but Coach had that vision of like, hey, we need to change. And I thought that said a lot about him running a program.
Well, Coach Staley, we know you're busy. I got one more question for you. I know how draft meetings are, how important those meetings are. Hopefully you guys have a great draft and get a lot of talent. Just tell us one thing, leave us with one thing about your experience from NIU that helped you in your career.
Yeah, I think the term that comes to mind is the culture of the program. I think that certainly, Thomas, as you know, when you're building a program, you got to stand for something. And I think when the second I got to Northern Illinois, when I think of NIU, I think of the hard way. Like that's like what my takeaway was from that experience was it was very easy to understand the culture of the program, and that every coach, every player, every person that was associated with the program was expected to go above and beyond, and that there's a certain standard of how you do everything. And so I think that's something that has stayed with me. We use the term ROA here, which is relationships and competition. But I felt like, being a Husky, you kind of knew what that was about. And then you knew all the tradition that came with it, like singing the fight song and all the things that, Thomas, that you lived as a player and now as a coach. I felt like there's like this special feeling that you had being a part of it. And there was so much to take away. And again, the hard way has stayed with me. That's been a big part of my path, and certainly proud of it. And I'm glad I learned a lot about what it is to develop, and lead a culture by being a part of Coach Novak's program.
Well, that's awesome, Coach Novak. Anything else you want to say to Coach Staley before we let him go?
Well, I just want him to know how proud everybody is of him, and so glad that we had a little time together that we did. And I know they're going to do great things with the Chargers because, like I said, he's a great coach, but even more important, he's a wonderful person. And I'm sure the players love him, and I'm sure they're on their way to some championship seasons here in the near future. Best of luck, Brandon. Thanks for doing this, Brandon.
No, thanks, Coach, for having me. And Thomas, hey, I'm never too busy for you.
As we wrap up, I don't think we do this enough as coaches to thank coaches that you work for, and we have the opportunity to do that now. So I'm gonna let each of you, in your own words, thank Coach Novak, the program, because it means something. I mean, Coach, you've done a great job with hiring people. Everybody that has come underneath you as a player and as a coach learned a great deal from you. And I know you don't like to take credit. We all know how you are, but I think, to give these guys an opportunity to say thank you would be a fitting end to this call. So, Coach Narduzzi, I'll let you go first.
All right, Coach Novak, again, can't thank you enough. You got me out of Rhode Island. It was my alma mater. I wanted to get the hell out of there. So, to this day, just to get going and be in the MAC, I think my wife looked at me and said, "We're going where? For what?" But that was the best move of my life is going out to the Husky family out there with you. So I can't thank you enough. So thanks, Coach, again.
Thank you, Pat.
Coach Mal?
Coach, thanks again for everything. I mean, it was awesome. It was a great experience. I'm trying to think of anything. It's just one thing I can think of is I love you. I really appreciate everything you've done for me. You helped me so much as a coach and as a person. And again, I think about you a lot. And again, I love you.
Appreciate it.
Coach Shafer?
Yeah, Joe, the same. You gave me a shot to go work the camp at Indiana for Coach Mallory. You said you're not going to get paid. You're going to work for free, but I'll get you 10 minutes with Coach Mallory. And then Coach gave me a shot, and then you gave me a shot. And, you were so much more than a coach to all of us. And, especially to me after my dad passed, you were that figurehead that wasn't there anymore. And to this day, I always ask myself, what would Joe do in this situation? And that's because the man you are. And we love you more than you ever know, Joe. And I just appreciate you.
Coach Canada?
Yeah, it's all been said. I can't thank you enough. I didn't have any business being in Northern Illinois. I was coaching at Butler, and my career has been very blessed, and it's all because of getting on your staff. And let me coach the running backs as a quarterback guy that didn't know what he was doing. And we joke about it, but getting to Coach Thomas and some of those guys, and then the promotion. But all that being said, Mike said it, Shafe said, we've all said it. I mean, what we learned from you, how to treat people. You hired great coaches and great guys, and we're all still friends. But what we learned from you, how to be a coach. And I was blessed to be with Coach Mallory, and the only reason I did was that. So I don't ever minimize that. But you allowed me to learn how to coach. And I've been able to support my family since then, and I owe that all to you. So thanks for everything. Love you and Carol both. And all the memories are just, we could talk for hours. I mean, recruiting, you talk about recruiting stories after we sat at your house, had a beer and talked about who you were going to take and who you weren't. And we all left and took a bet on who you really going to take. So, I mean, we learned so much, but I say that in jest, but also when you did it right, you made sure you took the guys you wanted, and we all learned that. So can't say thanks enough.
Coach Pitt?
Well, going to Northern Illinois saved my career. I was at a lot of name schools. I was at Northern in 94, 95, and then, coached at Oklahoma and whatever, and Missouri and Kansas, so whatever it was. But I hadn't won, and going to Northern Illinois and winning. And winning drives a lot of things. It drives work ethic. It drives recruiting. Winning changes people. I'm assuming losing does too. But I got an opportunity to go in there, work with Matt, and then win. And then after that, my career. Would you imagine going back to Northern Illinois and going, it's the greatest thing that ever happened to you career-wise? And it was, so forever grateful for that. And Coach believed in me. And I really look forward to every game because you'll text me and we've obviously lost a few games and we win. But you text me and it means a lot to me. And you and Carol mean a lot to the Pittman family. And thank you.
Hey, Coach, I'm gonna let you finish and wrap it up. But as a player that played under you and as a coach that coached under you, certainly appreciate everything you've done for me. The decision was made long before I said I'm committed with my parents. How you talked to my parents, you sat in the home, how you said you would look after me and help mold me and grow me along with the staff. That's why I had great relationships with the staff. For me to give Wolf $5, we had a great relationship. I had a great relationship with Coach Shafe. I mean, but that's what you taught us as players, and hopefully I can help continue that legacy because we do things very similar to how you do things. And just appreciate you texting me, calling me, checking in on me. I mean, that goes a long way. And, couldn't be more happy that you as my coach. You took a chance on a young guy like myself, and, things are turning out well. But I'll let you wrap it up, Coach.
I want to thank all of you for the kind words. I think you're just being nice to me because I'm going to be 78 years old and you're worried about me. But I want you to know this. This July, Carol and I are going to celebrate 15 years of retirement here in North Carolina. And we're really been very fortunate. We've had a chance to travel, which we wanted to do. And watch a lot of you guys, and I critique you guys every Saturday watching on TV, and we've had a chance to see some games live. But you're the reason. You guys and the players we had and the administration we had that supported us are the reason we've had a chance to have a great retirement. And like I said, I've enjoyed every year of it. I miss the relationships. I don't always miss all the Sunday night meetings and Monday morning 6 a.m.s and all that, but I really do miss the players. I miss the coaches and the fun we had. And when you go through good days and bad days, and there were plenty of both, you grow together and you learn to respect each other. And that's what I got of it. I was lucky to coach for 40 years. And you guys are all in the middle of your careers, and I'm sure, having the same experiences. But what a great job we had. We were fortunate to have a job like coaching football and earn a living, and it's just amazing. And it's what I always wanted to do. I know a lot of you, that was your goal in life, and a lot of you came from coaching families, and that was an influence for you. And but like I said, it was just been a wonderful time. I appreciate every one of you. I appreciate every one of the players we had, because we really had a great time and had some real successes, and really appreciate it. And thank you for this opportunity, Thomas.
No problem. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.